Praise the Lord, he said, voice trembling. The congregation echoes, Hallelujah. My name is Emmanuel Ikechi Osondu. Today, I stand not just as a man, but as a testimony. I am the one the Lord saved from the belly of darkness. The congregation fell silent. He grips the pulpit. His voice trembles. My story is not an easy one to tell, he said, but I must tell it because God delivered me, not from strangers, but from the very hands that raised me. Once upon a time in a small town, there were 4 siblings, Emmanuel, his 2 sisters, and 1 brother. They played together, ate together, laughed under the moonlight. Their mother, Chizoba Osondu, also known as Mama Ima, was a respected woman in the neighborhood, a widow, mourned for her soft hands and determined eyes. After the sudden loss of their father, the only breadwinner, the world grew heavier. Their tiny home, made of cracked mud walls and a rusted zinc roof, could barely shield them from the rain. Every morning, the eldest, who was Emmanuel barely 16, would rise before the sun, not to prepare for school, he said. The second child, a girl, Nieka, with bright eyes dimmed by hunger, once dreamed of becoming a Wade, but to walk miles to fetch water. Dreams in a home where food is scarce and school fees are impossible often fade away. Their mother, worn and weathered by grief, took on petty jobs, washing clothes, sweeping compounds, and praying for a miracle. Her hands told a story of sacrifice, her eyes of silent pain. Some days they ate nothing, some nights they studied under the flicker of a borrowed candle. But through it all, the hunger, the mockery, the torn uniforms, they held on to each other, because even in poverty there was love. Even in struggle there was strength. And though the world forgot them, they never forgot to hope. Then one day, fate smiled on them. Mama Emma, with excitement, came back home one Thursday evening. She told her children that she got a loan from the bank with their late father's small plot of land as collateral. Later on, she got the money and started a cloth material business for herself. She would travel to Onitsha, the early morning bus. She would return with bags of fabric, Ankara, lace, chiffon, and even men's kaftan materials. After 3 months, her business began to flourish. Soon, customers from far and wide, both local and international customers, started patronizing her. Her customers will make orders online and she will waybill their packages to them. Mama Ima and her children can now afford anything they wanted and comfortably eat 3 square meals a day. They moved into a new town away from their old residence. Ima and his siblings started a good school and they were happy. Then it all began one cold July night. Chisom, the 3rd child, Ima's youngest sister, screamed. It was unlike anything anyone in the house had ever heard. A cry that pierced through the walls, sending chills down their spines. Ima rushed in to find her shivering violently. Her eyes rolled back, wide open but unseeing, and her voice hoarse from the cry that wouldn't stop. Her body convulsed violently. She was kicking and swinging her arms wildly, as though fighting off something no one else can see. Her mouth wide open in the silent scream after the first, and her hands clutched at her neck like she was being strangled by invisible hands. Jesus, Ima gasped, but the girl could not speak. Her mouth trembled, tears streamed from her eyes, but no words came. Her body was burning with fever, yet her skin was cold to the touch. Ima rushed to his mother's room and banged on the door, but there was no answer. He banged again and again, screaming on top of his voice, but no response. Then he rushed to the front door. He was about to open it when he heard his mother call out to him, Ima, what is going on? Ima rushed back and dragged his mother to his sister's room. Mama Ima screamed, Chisom, what is it? Chisom kept groaning, flinching, as if swatting at unseen shadows. In the midst of everything, Ima's other siblings were crying and praying to God that nothing happens to their sister. Neka and his younger brother Obina had to stay back and watch over the house while Ima and his mother took Chisom to the hospital. Few minutes they were on the road. They took her to the nearest hospital, then to a family hospital in town at dawn. Doctors ran forward, nurses wheeled her in, machines beeped, blood was taken, tests were rushed. But after hours of examination, the lead doctor returned, confused, pale and shaking his head. Her vitals are unstable, but there's no sign of infection, no internal damage, nothing we can understand. She's not responding to any medication. The doctor could not explain what was wrong. On the 7th night, just after midnight, Chisom let out one final blood-curdling scream and died, just like that. No medical reason, no natural cause. Mama Ima fell to the hospital floor wailing, but something in her spirit knew this was only the beginning. The family mourned. Some blamed school stress. Others said it was malaria, but no one could explain the scream or why the girl died exactly after 7 nights. After the death of her daughter, Mama Ima, the once soft-spoken woman, did not wither. She mourned, yes, she wept bitterly at the funerals. Her sobs shook the earth. But a month later, she stood tall again. She began to flourish even more. Her fabric business exploded into wealth. New shops sprang up in 5 major states: Lagos, Imo, Delta, Kano, and Anambra. Her skin glowed, her car changed, her circles shifted. She bought a new house in the same town where she resides. She and her children moved in. Things looked normal again until 1 year later it happened again. This time it was Neka, the second child, Emma's younger sister. Her scream echoed through the house at 11:30 p.m. Her body convulsed violently. She was swinging her arms wildly as though fighting off something no one else can see. Her hands scratched her skin, drawing blood, clawing at invisible things crawling under her flesh. Ghostly insects, spirits like shadows with fingers that sting and slither. She tears her clothes, twists her neck unnaturally, screams until her voices crack. Emma was in his room. He heard the scream. He jerked with his eyes wide open. Then silence. He heard it again. He ran to his sister's room door, tries the handle. It's jammed. Pounding the door, screaming, "Open, open, Neka, open this door." Mr. Ben, the gateman, drawn by the noise, he clutches a wooden pestle. He stormed into the house and ran upstairs where the noise was coming from. He saw Emma trying to break the door. "Move," he said in a loud voice. Bang! Bang! Crack! On the third hit, the door bursts open. They rushed inside and found Neka unconscious. "Where is your mother?" Mr. Ben asked. Emma ran like a light into his mother's room. He banged on the door, but no response. He yelled, "Mama! Mama! Mama!" Still no response. He ran back towards his sister's room on hearing the sound of his mother's door opening. He ran back. "Mama! Mama! Hurry! I don't know what is wrong with Neka." Without hesitation, she bolts to her feet and sprints down the hallway, her bare feet slapping against the cold floor. "Neka, what is it? What happened?" She kneels beside the bed, gently cupping Neka's face. "Please wake up," she yelled. Without any further delay, Mr. Ben grabbed Neka and carried her. "Madam, get the car keys. Let's take her to the hospital." At the hospital, her skin ice cold and her eyes refused to meet anyone's. Doctors in the hospital were called in. Blood tests, CT scans, neurological exams, everything came back normal. The doctors and nurses were confused. Neka was now conscious but had stopped speaking. Her once vibrant eyes now stared blankly into the air. At night, she screamed, not words, but long, chilling wails that echoed through the walls. Exactly 7 nights later, Neka died. Her final scream was so loud, the words claimed it shook the ground. 1 month later, Mama Emma's mansion in Enugu now sparkled under the sun. Her photos graced magazine covers. She was called the Iron Lady of the East because of her perseverance and determination after her losses. People talked about her success and at the same time about her misfortune in her family. But exactly 1 year later, the scream came again. It was Obina. The boy cried out in the middle of the night, clutching his stomach, his voice torn from some unseen horror. His eyes were bloodshot, his body cold, yet he burned with fever. They took him to every hospital. Every single one said the same thing. "We don't know what this is." People in the area whispered that it was a curse, Some said it was a case of their village people tormenting them, but the truth was darker than anyone imagined. On the 6th night, Obinna was visited by a strange woman in his dreams. She wore red and black, with long, dreadlocked hair and eyes that bled tears. She whispered, "The price has been paid. The covenant is irrevocable." Obinna woke up screaming again, and on the 7th night, just as the clock struck midnight, he died. No one could understand why. 3 siblings, one after the other, 1 year apart, screaming for 7 nights, and then death. Within weeks of the burial, orders poured in. Celebrities, governors' wives, and foreign dignitaries wanted her laces, damask, and Dutch wax prints. Her designs were suddenly timeless, ethereal, God-touched. She traveled to Dubai, Accra, Istanbul, and Milan. Every trip brought more fame. She smiled again. She posted photos online. Cheesy in flowing Ankara by the Eiffel Tower. Cheesy in a golden gale beside the Bosphorus. Her Instagram exploded, but the photos never told the full story. She lived the life she has always wanted, but deep down, inside she was not totally happy. At this point, Emma was the last one left. "Just me and Mama," he muttered, looking at the ceiling in his room. He thought it was bad luck, maybe a curse from his father's side, but every night he felt something watching him. He just knew he was next. Now the house was quiet, too quiet, only Emma remained. One night he had a dream. He found himself in a strange forest. The trees were tall, but they had no leaves. Each branch carved like claws reaching for the sky. The air was cold, but he was sweating. He looked down. His feet were bare, and the ground was covered in ash. The deeper he walked, the quieter the world became. Even the wind refused to whisper. Then he saw them. 3 shadows standing in a circle. His siblings, each of them with eyes like empty wells. No mouths, just faces stretched in silence. They were pointing at something behind him. He turned around, and there stood a woman covered in black feathers. But he knew that face somehow, but it was blur. Her eyes glowed red. She opened her mouth, but instead of words, cockroaches crawled out. Hundreds of them, pouring from her lips, skittering toward him. He tried to run, but his legs wouldn't move. He was stuck, frozen, watching. Then the ground cracked open beneath him, and he fell into a pit filled with fire, but faces screaming in silence. He was falling, deeper, deeper, until a voice called out from the darkness. Voice, whispering but thunderous. "The last offering is you." Suddenly he landed in a room. His room, his bed was there. But 3 giant cockroaches sat at the foot of the bed, each one as tall as a child. The first looked at him with hunger. The second clicked its legs together like it was counting down. The third had the familiar eyes. It was crying. Then all 3 began crawling toward him in a straight line. He reached for something, anything, and found a wooden rod in his hand. But just before they reached him, he woke up. He was soaked in sweat. The time was 11:47 p.m. His heart was pounding, and he knew deep down that this dream was no dream. It was a warning. A glimpse into a battle he didn't know he had already entered. Deep in the heart of the forest, past the thorn trees, past the graves no one speaks of, there is a place where light dares not enter. A clearing, dead quiet. Moonlight flickers, but never touches the ground. And there, at the stroke of midnight, they came. They moved like smoke, appearing one by one. Women wrapped in black cloths, men with eyes like burnt coals, a child with no shadow, and a one-legged priestess who walked without footsteps. They came from different places, different clans, bound by the same covenant, the brotherhood and sisterhood of blood and bone. They sat in a circle, in the middle of them, a black pot. It boiled, though there was no fire beneath it. Inside the pot, names, faces, blood. The high priestess, her voice dry like the wind before a storm, spoke. "We have eaten well this year. You all have done well. The spirits are satisfied. The covenant stands strong. A wicked cheer rose from the circle. High priestess continues, but the pot is not full. One name remains. The covenant demands one more blood. She dipped her long fingers into the boiling pot. Steam hissed. A name rose to the surface, written not in ink, but in blood and shadow. She read it aloud. Emmanuel Osondo, the last of his bloodline, she said. The witches nodded in approval. They licked their lips. Some smiled. Others chanted, "He is ripe. He is ready. His star shines too bright. He must be quenched." But one among them, one sat silently, face hidden beneath a black veil, hands trembling. It was Mama Ima. She had been with them for 4 years. She had brought them her daughters, her son. But tonight, as they called the name of her last boy, Emmanuel, her heart clenched. She remembered his cries, his crooked teeth, the way he prayed, loud and innocent, the way he held her hand after his brothers died and said, "Mama, don't cry. God will protect us." But now, beneath the veil, tears fell. High priestess noticing, and echoed, "Sister Chizoba, do you resist the call?" All eyes turned to her. She lifted her veil slowly, face pale, eyes swollen. Mama Ima's voice cracking. "He's the last one, the only child I have left. High priestess, he's the offering. The covenant must be fulfilled." A deep growl echoed from the forest. The spirits were listening. Mama Ima stood. Her voice trembled, but there was strength underneath. Then let the spirits take him. And just like that, they vanished, one by one, leaving Mama Ima standing alone in the forest. Alone, but watched. That same night, Mama Ima returned home and found Emmanuel awake. Her face was different, cold, like a woman who had carried a secret for too long. She sat beside him, took his hands in hers, and whispered, "My son, I need you to listen carefully. What I tell you now may sound like madness, but it's the truth. I made mistakes, terrible ones." "My son," she said, "tonight something will happen. They're coming for you, my son. At midnight, 3 cockroaches will crawl into your room in a straight line. They are not what they seem. Kill the first 2, leave the last. That one will be me." She wept. Emma was shocked. What kind of warning was that? She confesses how 4 years ago she was initiated into witchcraft Coven by a friend who she met and told of her struggles. Her friend assured her that once she joins the witches, all her sufferings and struggles will be over. But everything came at a price, the lives of her children. Tonight, don't sleep. At exactly midnight, you will see 3 cockroaches crawling into your room in a straight line. The first 2, kill them, but the last one, let it go. That will be me. I'll be watching. Emma nodded, pretending to agree, but something inside him was boiling. How could she? My own mother? After killing my sibling. Then the time came. Clock strikes 12. Room is dark. Emmanuel lights a small candle. Suddenly, 3 large cockroaches crawled in, perfectly aligned. It happened just as she said. 1, 2, 3. They came crawling from the corner, as if obeying a command. He raised his hand, and in that moment, a strange thought whispered, "Obey her. Leave the last." But I remembered my siblings, their pain, their blood. The first one came forward. Slap! He crushed it. The second crawled fast. Slap! He killed it too. Then came the last one. Slow, cautious, almost human in its hesitation. It paused and turned around. But Emmanuel, with rage, grief, and divine anger, he slammed it with all his might. And so it was. He crushed the first, then the second, and then the third. He ran to her room. She was dead, eyes wide open, fingers curled into claws. A trail of black smoke escaped from her mouth and vanished into the earth. That night, he found what he was never meant to see. A small shrine buried beneath his mother's bed, with dolls, names, blood. The next day, the pastor came and prayed. The church fasted. The curse was broken. So when he stood on the pulpit that Sunday, his voice firm and his heart at peace, he didn't speak to glorify pain, but to glorify the God who saved him from the shadow of his own blood. I should be dead, but Jesus saved me. My own blood betrayed me, but the blood of Jesus covered me. I am free, church. The church erupts into shouts, praises, and songs. The choir rises. Ushers are crying. Some people fall to their knees, praying. And Emmanuel, the last of four, was finally free. So viewer, what the enemy meant for evil, God turned for good. Not every smile hides love. Not every parent is a protector. But when man fails you, when even your own blood plots against you, remember, God never sleeps. Emmanuel was not just his name, it was his destiny. God with us. And that's another page from the story library, your portal to endless stories. If you enjoy this chilling tale, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.